When I was Protestant, I grew up in a strong evangelical Christian home where prayer was really important for us. We did family devotions together at night. But the way that we usually did this was, well, Nathan, what do you want to pray for tonight? And I'd express what I want to pray for, and then we'd come together and for a time, we would, voice our own prayers, in our own words. And then this also kind of spilled over into personal devotions. So we were always taught to have, personal devotion time where you would read the Bible, you would maybe journal a little bit what your thoughts are and spend some time in prayer. And that was always expected that, that would be a time of just personally voicing your own requests mostly to God. There were a couple set prayers that we prayed religiously as a family. One of them was the Our Father. This is how the Lord had taught us to pray, and so we would pray this prayer sometimes in church services, sometimes as a family. The prayer that we prayed most religiously was the prayer that we prayed at mealtime. We had a specific family prayer that we prayed every time we gathered for a meal. But other than that, there were no written prayers. Written prayers were very foreign to our whole experience, my whole experience as a Protestant. Any time that you were asked to pray, it was expected that you would pray in your own words. And that was always very intimidating for me. I never felt like I was good at it. And as I talked to more and more people, I learned that everybody kind of felt the same way, although some people seemed a little bit better at it or well-versed at it than others. But yeah, for the most part, very little, set prayers, rote prayers that we had, more just speaking in your own words. When I became Catholic, I started to find a whole treasure trove of prayers that had been written throughout the centuries, specifically prayers for the liturgy that you found in the liturgy, both in the Mass, but then also in the Divine Office or the Liturgy of the Hours. I found that there were prayers that had been, penned by saints down through the ages, that found their way into the prayers that the fathers had an instrumental role in kind of in writing specifically for the Mass, but then also began to discover the wisdom of praying the Psalms. And this was not something that would have been foreign to us as a Protestant, but as a Protestant, I would read the Psalms. I would read or study the Psalms or try to understand them, but they weren't necessarily our prayer book. Actually, at all. They weren't really our prayer book as a Protestant. They were there for us to read and to study and to glean wisdom and insight from. When I started to pray the Liturgy of the Hours, I started to realize that these Psalms have been the prayer book of the Church from the very beginning. I mean, even going back before into the history of Israel, these were the prayers of the temple. These were the prayers of the synagogue. These were the prayers of Christ himself as a faithful Jew. So the Psalms became, for me as a Catholic, became the source of my prayer. They became the very content of my prayer, and I'm really thankful for how they have helped me articulate even the longings of my heart that I don't even realize are there. That's one of the things that the Church teaches, is that the Psalms articulate for us in a way that we don't even know how the deepest longings of our hearts, because they were inspired by God to do just that. So we have Psalms that are there for us for every season and stage of life, various kind of emotions that we experience as human beings, and they were all taken up by Christ and therefore made a perfect offering to the Father, and something that we can now pray and participate in with Him.